Shout out to Kalshi for sponsoring Mets Daily. Use that code FanArchBaseball to get $10 when you trade 10. Enough with the matchup-based lineups, Carlos Mendoza. You got to stop, bro. Whether it's Mendoza, everyone wants to say it's Stearns. Listen, I think at the end the manager has to say, I never buy into it's coming from above. You know, the matchups, I think, might be coming from above, but I think the final lineup choice still comes down to the manager. And I'm going to blame the manager. You know, until a manager comes out and says, I'm not making this lineup, I'm going to blame the manager in the end. I know it's all analytics, but Mendoza's an analytics guy. And the human side of this baseball game has been lost. And we are in this world of analytics and robots and AI taking over. And it's hit a point where it's, you know, the human element of the game is being forgotten about. And when Carson Bench and Brett Beatty and MJ Melendez are all big factors to you scoring 10 runs less than 24 hours prior, you can't go out there and sell me Thursday and tell me, all right, with all the injuries we have, with Lindor, Mauricio, Robert, Polanco all on the shelf, we're going to start Ibanez, Slater, and Brujan. You can't tell me that. Jose Quintana is not Randy Johnson. He is not Sandy Koufax. He is a soft-tossing left-hander. You can't tell me that you don't have faith in Carson Bench to hit a soft-tossing left-hander. I get a day off here and there for some of these guys, but to have 3 to 4 guys have the same day off when you already are putting out a C lineup turns a C lineup into an F lineup. And there's no house money here. The Mets are 9 games under 500. There's no house money. You need to win every game, and you need to win every game, especially against crappy teams like the Rockies. And in the end, you lost. Kimbrel blows it, grand slam on what might have been a foul, but whatever. The offense had nothing. But guess what? The offense had nothing because you didn't give them a chance. And I get you put the guys later in the game when they take the lefty out. But why not let a young player like Carson Bench learn how to hit lefties by playing him? MJ Melendez is the best hitter on the team right now. Why is he not playing? So I'm tired of the matchups this, matchups that. You want to play Slater once a week on Thursday because of the matchup. He had 2 hits, fine. But then don't play Brujan and play Andy Ibanez. These guys were cut for reasons. Not saying they're not major leaguers, but they're not guys who should be in starting lineups. And it's hit a point with the manager and this team that he's stopped the participation trophies. You got to get this thing turned around, and you got to put your best hitters out there, and it's not fair to them who never know if they're going to be in the lineup or not. Anytime there's lefty, it looks like I'm going to be sitting today. How about you say, no, you're going to play today? Maybe that'll instill some confidence in some of these guys. But it's such a robotic manager and robotic front office right now that it's not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable as a fan. It's part of why I've been deflated with this team. Obviously, everything has gone wrong, but the decision making, man, it's not human kind of stuff. It's robot putting number kind of stuff, and that's not fun. It's just not. So very frustrating loss Thursday. Obviously, the check swing probably was a strike, but either way, the Rockies probably were going to score. The grand slam might have been foul, but it might have went around the pole. It was hard to see from any angle. I can't really blame anyone on that. All I can blame is the Mets offense not showing up. Christian Scott was great. I think that was the positive, and that's really the only positive from Thursday. Craig Kimbrel's not a positive right now, and I think Craig Kimbrel, it was right to bring him up, give him a shot. I think he's good for this team, like I talked about the other day, in terms of a veteran presence. But at this point, I'd rather see Dylan Ross. I think Dylan Ross is 2.70 ERA. He's only pitched 6 2/3. Remember, he was hurt early in the year in April. At this point, I like to see Dylan Ross. He throws harder. Kimbrel does not have as much life on his fastball as he used to. I don't think Kimbrel's a problem for the Mets, but I don't really think he helps having him around. I don't think it's too early to go to some of the youth. I think people want to say it's too early. I think the weather's starting to warm up a little bit. I think it's getting to a point where you make the change. At some point, you make the change. And I think it's time to, move on from Craig Kimbrel. If he wants to accept a minor league assignment, fine, send him down. But, Ryan Lambert has struggled so far in AAA. I don't think they're going to go to him. Nate Lavender is an option. But I really think Dylan Ross is the obvious answer. He made the team the last couple games of the year. He didn't get the pitch, but he was on the team. Lavender is rehabbing right now. So Lavender's time might be eventually. But Lavender, obviously a lefty, getting his way back up as he rehabs here. He'll be in AAA. He might be an option come this summer. But get Dylan Ross here. Get the flamethrower up here and help this bullpen out. And if you want to help yourself out, you can always check out Kalshi, of course. Baseball season is here, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. The Mets are trading at a probability of around 2% to win it all, meaning a $100 trade will get you around $3,700 with a win. The Mets are trading 55% to beat the Diamondbacks tonight, which is pretty interesting considering the Diamondbacks have the better record and they're in Arizona. But the Mets are trading at a 55% probability, means $100 will get you $173. If the Mets win, you can pick on any MLB market. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. Mets might not be able to trade on Sean Manaea because he has been terrible. And obviously, I spoke highly of Manaea. I said to give him a chance. He hasn't had it. He's proved me wrong. I'll take the L on that one. Sean Manaea just does not look good. And he has no answer for it. They asked him. He said it's not injury. He doesn't have an answer. And I think his confidence is completely shot. And I think they're at a point where you might have to eat that money and just cut him. No one's going to take him in a trade. There might be a point you cut him. If there is something wrong, IL him. But obviously, you can't truly do a phantom IL. You're not allowed to do that. So they got to say maybe there's shoulder tightness. Maybe they tell him, hey, make something up. I don't know. But Mets have a Sean Manaea problem. The trickle-down effect from him not being able to end that game Wednesday was the Mets having to use Devin Williams. Guys having to, come in and pitch, and, it affects you the next day. It was a domino effect. And that hurts the team. Certain guys not available the next day because you got to use extra relievers in a game that was a blowout. So even in mop-up duty, you can't trust Sean Manaea at this moment. I don't know what else to do. I think you probably don't put him in again unless it's a blowout. I don't think you can put him in a close game. I don't think you can put him in a game you're down by 1 or 2. You're in a spot where it has to be a blowout for you to use him, and that's almost a waste of a roster spot. He's owed $25 million next year. What do you do? Do you eat that money? I don't really have an answer. Let me know in the comments below. I don't know if cutting him and eating the money makes a ton of sense for the Mets. They've obviously done it before. They have the owner that will spend the money. You might just chalk it up to an L at this point. But you kind of want Manaea to figure it out. You kind of got to keep him on the roster and hope that he figures it out. Because on May 8th, to cut a guy with $25 million next year and what he has remaining this year, we're talking about $40 million. I don't really know if that's possible. I don't know if that's even in the Mets' thought process at the current moment. But by the time the All-Star break trade deadline comes around, they got to hope he has some value and maybe they could ship him off and get something for him. But right now, Mets have a Sean Manaea problem. Smash that thumbs up on this video. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're commenting below. We'll get to your comments in just a second, folks. But yeah, not good. Not good at all. The Diamondbacks and the Mets. 17-19, the Mets 14-23. McClain takes the hill tonight. McClain coming off his worst outing where he only went 4 innings. Only gave up 3 runs, but you need more than 4 innings from Nolan McClain. So McClain and Holmes this weekend. Hopefully the Mets can take 2 out of 3. You get 2 out of 3, you're 16-24. Still not great, but you return home with at least 3 series wins. You'll chalk that up as a W. Win series, and then Detroit and Yankees going to be, what should be an intriguing homestand. Obviously, Detroit, a contender who is without Tariq Skubal for a while now. Framber gets suspended 6 games. And then the Yankees, who are, playing incredible baseball. So take 2 out of 3. But Diamondbacks have some bad pitching. Mets got to eat up on that pitching. Merrill Kelly this weekend has been terrible. Ryan Nelson's been terrible. They'll face Eduardo Rodriguez, who's been good, but the other two guys have not been good. Mets got to get the job done here. All right, we'll read some of your comments from yesterday's show. Make sure you keep on commenting. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. Follow me at Jake Brown Live. Swish Flames Podcast says we need a lefty starter, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think they need a starter. I don't think it matters what side they throw from. You can argue, sure, they need a lefty because they don't really have one right now. But you just need starters. So Wenninger's the first guy I turn to. Dave says Wilmer. I assume he's talking about Flores. I don't think the Mets would go down the Wilmer-Flores route again. Randy says, yes, moving back home to Queens. Good news. Yeah, listen, I'm a Queens boy. All roads lead back to Queens. I love Queens, so glad to, fingers crossed, be returning to Queens. Sal says, here's what the Mets need to do after winning today. The Mets have 7 series to close out May, including 4-game series. Sweep 3 of them and just win the remaining 4, and it'll be 33-25 to start June. Let's go, Mets, baby. You got to believe. Listen, that sounds a lot easier said than done. 7 series to close out May. I'd love to win 5 of the 7, 6 of the 7 at this point. Get as close to 500 to enter June as you can, and you're still alive. But I just don't know anymore with this team. Let's go, Mets. Be the D-backs. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll talk to you Monday. Have a great weekend.